Have you ever wondered why some people seem to rebuild years of muscle in just few months, while others train just as hard, eat the same food, they are consistent, but they make only a fraction of progress? Now, imagine two men walk in the gym today. So one has trained for years and he managed to build a good physique. Now, life happened, he got married, got a new job, got kids, and he was out of the gym for a few years. Now, he lost a lot of muscle. And if you see him in the gym, you probably wouldn't recognize him. You would think it's a different person. Now, imagine another guy who is a beginner and they start training at the same time. So what happens? The first guy who used to be a bodybuilder but stopped training for a few years and obviously lost a lot of muscle will dramatically change in few months. So let's say in 6 months, he will most likely rebuild most of the muscle that he had before, while the other guy who was a beginner would hardly put 2 pounds of muscle. So the question is now, how is that possible? Some people would say, oh, but he had amazing genetics. This is why he managed to rebuild all this muscle in 6 months. Some others would say, oh, his testosterone levels are very high. Some will think that he has discovered some magic supplement. But no, something simply remarkable is happening. Something that most people have experienced, but not many people understand. Your muscles remember. Not your brain, not your nervous system, it's not your motivation, it's not your determination, it's simply muscles themselves, they remember. So how is that possible? How is that possible that somebody who has lost so much muscle after years of not being able to go to the gym or after an accident or something managed to rebuild muscles in literally incredibly short period of time, in a few months? You have all experienced that. I can tell you my story. I remember after having an accident, motorbike accident in 1989, I believe. I was in hospital. I broke my leg, and I was in the hospital for a month. Then I came out. My right leg was literally half size of my left leg, and I was devastated. I think that will never come back. My doctor said, oh, you will be able to do squats maybe in 6 or maybe in 12 months' time. But that wasn't the case. After I came back home and started recovering, I started moving, doing simple movements, simple exercises like just body weight squat. In the beginning, I couldn't even go all the way down because my glutes and my quads on the right side, they were just nothing. They were skin and bone. But after a few weeks, I saw them coming back, and after a couple of months, I started training, and it took me only a few weeks after I started training that my right leg came back the same size that it was before. So yes, we do experience that, and this is the fascinating ability of the body to rebuild the muscle that the body has once built. You see, every rep that you do squatting, bench pressing, doing bent over rows and other exercises, they're not just important because they actually build the muscle at that particular time, but that also gives you something else, something more valuable. And this is reassurance for your future, because your muscles, your body will be able to recover at any point if you suddenly stop training and lose most of your gained muscles. And this brings us to one of the most fascinating discoveries in exercise science. Your muscles simply don't grow and then completely forget about what you have achieved. In many ways, they remember where they have been before. And obviously, the massive question still remains, how is that possible? How can muscles remember? At the end of the day, muscle is not a brain. It doesn't think. It doesn't make decisions. So where is that memory stored? And the answer to that is one of the most fascinating stories in bodybuilding. And it begins in every muscle fiber in your body. Now, before we understand how muscles remember, we first need to understand how muscles grow. Because most people simply think that muscle is like a balloon. You start training and your muscle cells simply balloon up, and then they forget about everything if you stop training one day. Obviously, that sounds logical, it's simple, but it's completely wrong. Muscle fiber is not an empty balloon. It is incredibly complex living cell. In fact, each muscle fiber is one of the largest cells in human body. Now think about this for a moment. Imagine you own a small business and it's just a small business. One manager is enough. He answers the phones, keeps the accounts, organizes deliveries, everything runs smoothly. But what happens when one day your business starts growing? Can one person manage everything? Is one manager enough? Of course not. You need more managers, you need more supervisors, you need more workers, because otherwise everything will start slowing down. Now, muscles are exactly the same. As one muscle becomes larger, it has more protein to build, more tissue to repair, more damage to recover from, and obviously more work to organize. And one control center simply isn't enough anymore. So your body is simply an extraordinary system. It creates more control centers, and these control centers are called myonuclei. Now think about them as managers in every muscle fiber. Each one is responsible for supervising only a certain amount of muscle. Now, the larger the muscle becomes, the more managers are needed. Same as example with a small business. But there is an interesting question. Where all these new managers come from? Actually, where these new myonuclei come from? And you need to understand that your muscles simply don't manufacture new myonuclei out of thin air. Instead, they call for help. And this help comes from satellite cells. These are tiny specialized cells that not many people know about and do not pay attention to them. But today we know that they are absolutely essential for muscle growth. When you train hard, especially over many months and years, these satellite cells become activated. So what they do, as the requirement for every muscle fiber grows to become bigger, they get help from satellite cells. How? Well, satellite cells give their nuclei to muscle fibers. And this is how, due to the consistent, effective training over months, over years, your muscles receive more managers, more myonuclei. So that happens because satellite cells give up their myonuclei to muscle fibers and therefore allow them to organize growth more, to like a company. So now your muscle fibers are more equipped with managers, with myonuclei, which will organize further growth. Now here is where the story becomes truly fascinating. Now again, imagine a factory that has been built over a period of years, and obviously there are walls in the factory, all kind of different machineries, lots of workers, lots of managers. But one day business collapses and the factory stops working. Obviously the factory is closed, is locked from outside. You simply see a building. But does that mean that factory has disappeared? Of course not. Because still the structure is there, the offices are there, the machineries are there, the computers are there, and all this has not been demolished. And this is actually where muscle memory begins. Because when you stop training, your muscles simply become smaller. Nobody's arguing about that. You lose size, you lose strength, you lose a lot. But there is the question that scientists started asking. When muscle shrinks, does it go rid of all these extra control centers in spent years of building? Or does it still keep them? And the answer to that question actually changes everything that we thought we knew about muscle growth. And this is one of the reasons why your body is even more intelligent than many people realize, because your muscles don't just grow, they prepare for the future. For many years, scientists believed something very simple. When you stop training, you lose half of your muscles and everything you have built over the years simply disappears. You also lose that machinery that had built it. It seemed logical, but after all, why would your body waste energy maintaining something that the body does not longer need. But then the researchers have asked a fascinating question. Is this really true? If that is the case, how is possible that the former bodybuilder, for example, who stopped training for 4 or 5 years, comes back and rebuilds his body in 6 months? This is simply unimaginable. So they tried to unravel that issue, that problem. Now, if you imagine, again, two big factories. So one factory is closed, business has finished, and the factory has been completely emptied. Everything inside, machineries, computers, electricity, everything that was inside was taken away. And also all the managers and all the workers, they all left. Now the other factory also closed, but they did not take all the machinery, computers, they did not cut electricity, they didn't even release managers. They kept them in case they may open again. So you see, this is the story of that muscle memory, because your body is not like first factory. Your body is actually like a second factory. And this is where that fascination actually of that amazing machinery, physiological ability of human body is. So the body does not simply eliminates all these structural elements and all these myonuclei that has been built over time. So the body simply does not eliminate everything that has actually helped to build all these muscles in the past, like, for example, all these structural elements, and especially these myonuclei, which were built over time. It seems as the body is thinking, one day I may need them again, because one day I may again be forced to grow, and it will be much easier if I save all these myonuclei in my cells, that they will definitely help my muscle fibers to grow quickly back if there is the need for that. And this is exactly the case. Now I want to be careful here because science is still evolving and researchers are still debating for how long all these nuclei still remain under every possible condition. And this is how science works, because good scientists continue asking questions. But one thing has become very clear. People who have previously built muscle over the period of years rebuild them significantly faster than people who never built muscle in the past, beginners. And even if they follow the same training program, the same diet, supplementation, beginners will develop very little muscle in the first 6 months, while former bodybuilders who came back after 5 years of no training at all will build massive amount of muscle within 6 months. Again, let me remind you about my own story, that after I have experienced that motorbike accident and my right leg actually shrunk, ended up to being like a skin and bone, I have rebuilt that leg within few months, the same size as before. And also, I'll give you another example of my good friend who used to be my flatmate. We used to share the flat together. And this is a famous professional bodybuilder, Patrick Nichols. So Patrick would go on holiday, and he would go to Barbados for 2-3 months. And he would say, I'm going there, I'm just going to relax, I'm going to be on the beach, see my friends, no training, nothing like that. Fine. Patrick comes back after 3 months. I remember him, I was in the gym, and the guy with a very familiar face walked up the stairs. I looked at him, turned around, and then turned back again, and that was Patrick. I looked at him and says, Patrick, what happened to you? He literally shrunk. Half of his muscles had disappeared. And it was funny. He started laughing. I said, I told you I'm not going to be training for 3 months. Then he started training, and within 2-3 months, Patrick was back to his best. I mean, he was obviously extremely well proportionate and conditioned professional bodybuilder. And that was unbelievable. And this is just, again, something from my own experience, first-hand experience, which actually proves that this is absolutely true. People rebuild their bodies within few months. But obviously that applies only to people who were already built in the past, and they took off whatever, months, years, regardless. Now, before you become too excited, let me make something very clear. Just because of this ability of your body to remember where you were in the past, the ability of your muscles to remember how big they were, actually of that ability that we call muscle memory, that doesn't mean that you should say, oh, I'm going to stop training for 4 or 5 months now, and then I'll come back because my muscles will simply remember, so I'll rebuild everything in a couple of months, so I'm just going to take a nice break. And you keep doing that often, because actually this is not a very good thing to do, because your muscles don't just remember how big they were. They also remember when they shrink and eventually accumulate more fat around them. Because most of the time when people stop training, they don't follow the right diet and they accumulate a lot of body fat. But your muscles also remember that. So next time when you stop training, they will be already prepared. The whole body will be gearing up to put more fat, more than it should. So although muscle memory is an incredible advantage, is not magic. If you stop training, your muscles will shrink. Your strength will decrease, your cardiovascular fitness declines, your movements become less efficient, and they still need some kind of maintenance. So imagine 2 houses that were abandoned. So one house was abandoned, but was maintained. At least the surface from outside, people managed to keep it in good shape. They painted or maybe repaired a little bit here and there wherever was needed. And the other house was completely neglected, right? So it will be much easier to move into the first house back again than to move to the second house again. And your muscles are the same. They will respond much better if they don't have to rely to muscle memory too often. Ideally, you should never stop training and lose large amount of muscles in the first place. It is always easier to maintain muscles than to rebuild it. Now, there is another point which is incredibly important, and surprisingly few people talk about it. Your muscles may recover quickly, but there are other tissues, like connective tissues, for example, that will need more time to recover. So when you come back from a long layoff and you think, oh, muscle memory, I'll probably can bench the same weight as I did before, I can squat the same weights as I did before, or bent over row the same weight, because my muscles will remember and I will get into those weights very quickly, or attempt to do that in a couple of weeks. But this is a wrong approach, because although your muscles may remember and they may recover much quicker, your connective tissues will not. Your tendons, your ligaments, your other connective tissue, your joints, they need more time to adapt. So you need to start easy. So you need to start slowly, and this is the best way to rebuild your muscles and also to allow your connective tissues, your joints, your knees, your lower back to strengthen again. This is why you need to go slowly back into your training. If you don't do that, injuries are very common, and they happen to many people who suddenly try to lift as much as they did in the past after years of layoff. This is very common. I know a few people who injure themselves like that simply because after the long layoff, they didn't take it easy. You have to be patient. Muscles and other tissues will all recover, but you need to start slowly. Never attempt the same weights or close to those best weights that you used in the past. Simply be sensible, start slowly, and allow your whole body, not just muscles, to recover fully and rebuild their previous size. So who benefits most from muscle memory? Clearly, former bodybuilders. Why? Because after a layoff, they will quickly, within 4, 5, 6 months, build back all their muscles that they used to have before. Why? Because simply they trained for years, sometimes for decades. They were building muscles, they were training hard, eating properly, allow the body to adapt. Obviously, develop a lot of those myonuclei in their muscle fibers over time. So this myonuclei didn't disappear. The whole structure for muscle growth is still there. Why? Because they had built it already over the period of years, if not of decades. So when they come back, the whole structure, the whole factory is still full with the machines. Electricity is there, computers are there, the managers are still there, and they're just waiting for the signal to grow. So this is why former bodybuilders will come back much faster and benefit much more from muscle memory than people who were not built in the past as much as bodybuilders. Now, another group of people who will benefit a lot from muscle memory are especially people over 40, men and women as well. And especially if they trained in the past. So even if they were not professional bodybuilders, or even if they didn't build huge bodies, huge muscles, they will still benefit from muscle memory. Their muscles will come back quickly to the size and shape they were there before, as much as they have achieved in the past, as soon as they start training. So they should not think that, oh, I'm now in my 40s and 50s, I didn't train since I was 20, 30, there is no need to start again, I will never have the body I had in the past. But this is not true. They will also benefit from muscle memory. I can tell you from my own experience, some of my clients have disappeared for years because obviously life happens. Some people were very busy, some people moved out of the country, but then in a few years' time they came back and I started training them again. So although they were not bodybuilders, they actually came back very quickly. Within a couple of months, 2-3 months, they were exactly where they were in the past. And as they continued training, obviously consistently eating right food, high amount of protein, they started even building new muscles. So you see, muscle memory is not only benefiting former bodybuilders, but can benefit everyone. There is a lesson that goes far beyond bodybuilding, a lesson that many young people don't understand. Most people today think that workouts are simply temporary. They train hard, go home, eat, recover, and that whatever they achieve every workout simply exists for that particular day. But this is not true. There is much more going on, because as you continue training, your body is not just building muscles. Your body is also investing in future. By building muscles, your body is creating new centers for growth in every muscle fiber, is creating more myonuclei. So this, as I explained earlier, will eventually benefit you in the future if the day comes that you stop training and then had to be out of training for months or maybe years. Because when you come back, you will be more able to rebuild everything that you have built in the past. So you see how important training is. It's not just a temporary muscle growth. It's not just a temporary achievement, but it's also investment in your future. And this is simply fascinating how human physiology works. If there is one thing I want you to remember from the whole video is this: your body is far more intelligent than most people realize. It does not simply react to your today's workout. It learns from it, it adapts to it, and in many ways, it remembers it. And this is why I always believe that resistance training is unlike any other form of exercise. You're not simply changing the way you look. You are changing the way your body functions. You're changing the future potential. You're building something that may stay with you for decades. Every intelligent workout becomes an investment not only in today's body, but also in the body that you will have years from now. And you see, people often ask me, what is the best age to start weight training? My answer is always the same. The best time was years ago, and the next best is today. After more than 40 years in bodybuilding, competing 46 times, winning 17 titles, coaching over 3,500 clients, I have published for you 14 ebooks which are fully loaded with detailed information about everything you always wanted to know about bodybuilding. So if you want to expand your knowledge and widen your horizons, click on the link in the comments and you can download my ebooks. Also, I have published for you Bodybuilding Blueprint course, in which I personally demonstrate and explain the most effective exercises for all major muscle groups. So if you want to learn how to train in perfect form and stop wasting time in the gym, click on the link in the comments and you can access my Bodybuilding Blueprint course. So guys, I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, share the video, and also send me your comments. And I will see you in the next video.